This story could have worked if maybe they'd rethought how things would go in the first film. If the focus was on Shirazawa instead of insert forgettable characters' names here. Because when you think about it, Shirazawa is the most interesting character out of them, and that's only because we touch upon his brief history of Godzilla in this film and the previous film. I say touch upon, but it's only in a few minor scenes, really, and they're meant to be character moments, but they're not deep character moments. And it sounds like the potential here would have been very vastly entertaining, because we know about his backstory with and how he got his fob watch from his father, and we know also about how he has this connection with Godzilla somehow, and he knows deeply of the kaiju's history, and he feels some connection to that. Wouldn't it be cool if, say, maybe we found out in this film that his father had an encounter with Godzilla that resulted in Godzilla saving his life, and this affected his father to go on to tell stories of Godzilla to his son, and this would influence Shirazawa and his actions as we see in these films, why he always tries to root for Godzilla in the end, because he knows of his actions in the past, and how they will, in turn, hurt a lot of people, but they will in the long run save everyone. So then get to this film, we can maybe learn more about him and that connection. Maybe we can find out that his involvement with Monarch was fueled by his desire to find out more about this creature that saved his father's life. Maybe his father encouraged him to do it. Focusing on Shirazawa, I think, could have been a very entertaining idea, because it builds up the character and these moments that were only briefly touched upon in the actual film, and we could have maybe had this subtle story woven in throughout the first two films. Because the first film could have worked if it was focused on Joe's character, Joe Ford. I think that's his last name. But yeah, if his character was the centre focus concurrently with his son. Yeah, going actually back to the first Godzilla film, if Bryan Cranston's character, who was the most interesting character out of that film, if he had survived and gone on to maybe act as more of a advisor to Shirazawa and the other Monarch scientists there, talking about the Mutos, maybe he could have been wounded instead of severely wounded, and he could have basically been bedridden, talking about, yeah, this is what I know about these creatures so far, this is what I've been researching for the past 10 years or so, maybe we can work on something to stop them. And concurrently you have Ford's character trying to get back to his family. Maybe his father told him, go and find your family, protect them, do at all cost. And this unintentionally gets his son killed, because the film can play out as it does, and then maybe his father's watching over the comms, or listening over the comms, and Ford tries to get rid of the bomb over the shore as in the film, but instead of a helicopter coming to rescue him, he dies. And this brings such heartbreak to his father, and he tells his father, like, over the comms, don't give up on family, please, be there for my family, be there so I can't be. And the film could end with him comforting his daughter-in-law and grandson, and Shirazawa could have maybe one of his cool monologues at the end of the film talking about Godzilla. And yeah, that kind of sets up the potential for this film too, because instead of having, the guy who helped create the Orca be involved in the plot, who we are literally introduced to in this film, it could have been Joe. He could have been the one that Shirazawa goes to. Maybe because they have this connection, maybe they've built up a reputation since the events of the first film, but he could be living in the cabin out in somewhere, and we can maybe explain in fasting dialogue that his daughter-in-law and grandson, they've moved on. They've accepted the husband's death, and they want to move on with their lives, but he hasn't. So that's some conflict with him and Godzilla, maybe. And maybe he has to debate throughout the film, should I let this creature die? Or should I put my grudges aside so that everyone can live? Which is an obvious kind of subplot, really. But it's more compelling because it's a character that we understand his reasoning why. Whereas in the actual King of the Monsters film, it's only a brief scene that we find out about the main character's motivation because he lost his son. And again, because it's not really built upon outside of that introduction scene, which is only like 30 seconds, I think, and then we have some brief scenes throughout the film scattered. Again, this could have worked, but because they weren't really focused on, they weren't the centre focus of the movie, because it was about the monsters, we don't really feel that much of a deeper connection with them. So having Joe in that role would have worked well, and tied in with Shirazawa and his focus if he was also the center focus. Put it this way: Joe's story could have been the first film. Shirazawa's could have been the second, and then this could have all culminated in this film and how it plays out. So in the end, Joe agrees to save Godzilla and put aside his grudges because he knows in the long run his son chose to save lives with his own career joining the military. So it's only the right thing to do to ensure that the lives are saved of everyone, and put aside your hatred for this creature that will give us the chance to survive. And Shirazawa will fulfill his motivation of basically saving the creature that he's admired for so long too. There are better ways to word it, I guess, but I think Godzilla and Godzilla King of the Monsters could have been very entertaining and worldly renowned for a great story alongside a kaiju monster story, if they'd gone that route maybe. But then again, I'm just a casual fan at the end of the day, so maybe I'm just talking out of my head here. Who knows? I'm sure there's better storytellers out there who could have come up with something better, even maybe something equal to what we got in the actual film. But hey, we can dream.